and we are going to get started. Thank you everyone for being here today and on our very popular session on building, promoting, and repurposing webinars. Are webinars a thing of the past? Our panelists today would argue no, you just have to make sure that you have the proper tactics in place in order to optimize this strategy. So I'd like to start off by saying thank you to our sponsor, LLTV, who is one of our sponsors this week and who's here to say, to keep our lights on. And then please ask questions, even if it's not about what you're looking forward to today, to hear in the chat. If you have any questions or something comes into your mind after, please, by all means, putting it in. If you have any other tips, sharing is caring. So don't forget that as we're going through our session today. Michelle and Anya will be monitoring the chat if I miss anything, so hang tight. If I jump to the next topic, it's not because I'm trying to ignore you, just doing multiple things at the same time is hard. So we will get going. I want to say a big thank you to our three panelists today, Kate, Megan, and Adam, for being here. I will let them introduce themselves. So how about Kate, you take it away.
Sure. So I see lots of familiar names. So great to see the names, and I'm so happy to be on this panel. I get so excited talking about webinars. So I am Kate Coffee Bacon. I am VP of U.S. Transactions Corporation. I'll talk about why I'm here. We have a education part of our business, UST Education. We do over 200 webinars a year. So we host those webinars. Those are eligible for CPE and CAE credits. Those credits are no charge to our attendees. So we do lots and lots of webinars. I live in a world of webinars, and I get very excited if someone says webinars are a thing of the past. Those are fighting words for me. So I'm really happy to be here and talk about why webinars need to be in your marketing strategy.
Thank you, Kate. And 200 a year, that is most definitely why you are here today. Megan, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Great. Thanks for having me. My name is Megan McDonough. I work at Ciligo, and I've been doing partner marketing and most recently have switched into our revenue marketing team. Ciligo is an iPaaS solution, if you're not familiar, so an integration platform, but I've been here about a year and a half, and I've been in the tech space for about 11 years, been doing webinars for probably about 7 of those years. At Ciligo, I produce webinars for different audiences, obviously a lot of two-partner webinars. We also do thought leadership for end users, some technical seminars for kind of our more technical partner audience. And then I also coordinate with some third parties like MS Dynamics World and Dynamics User Group, and then in the Salesforce ecosystem, Salesforce Ben. So a little bit of everything, but I'm really excited to be here and share what's worked for me. And I'm really excited to hear from Kate and Adam and get some perspective from them too. So thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for taking the time today to share with us. And last but definitely not least, Adam, tell me a little bit about yourself before we get into the questions.
Yeah, so Adam, I'm the head of demand gen at Brillion. I've been in the B2B tech space for the last 10, 12 years or so. I'm in Sweden, hence why it's so dark outside. My kids are just went to bed, so it's perfect. We don't host 200 webinars a year, but we have it a lot in our thought leadership efforts. So I have a lot to share in that area. But yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And I'm impressed that at 7 o'clock your child's in bed. At mine, I'm probably yelling at him to come on, get into bed now. So
this is a good night.
Oh, okay. I was like, may stay afterwards for any parenting tips and tricks because I can use some apparently. All right, as I digress and get back into marketing, let's kick it off with what type of webinars work best for you all? Content length, is there anything that you see more of an uptick than others? Kate, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Content wise, I always am a huge supporter of thought leadership. So thought leadership carves you out in the space as a subject matter expert. It lets you be the one that people call when they have a question. Length, man, I'm supporting UST Education big time, the 30-minute webinar in a series. So doing 3 30-minute webinars, part 1 of 3, and growing that audience with that thought leadership, with that subject matter expertise. So 30 to 60 minute is what we see. Believe it or not, when UST Education launched back in 2020, we were doing 90-minute webinars. Can you believe that? 90 minutes. So we've we're cutting them down because time, attention spans are a real thing. But length, I would say 30-minute, but a series.
Well, I think that's great because people are always like, I have enough content for 90 minutes, and just do 3 times 30 and get that building up. Because yeah, I won't sit for a full movie, but I will binge watch an entire series of 7 hours of Netflix. So I think we have all been kind of groomed into this new age. So this idea of a series and keep watching the next one, I think that's a great tip. Adam, what about you? What do you see working for your organization?
Yeah, but I totally agree on the series concept with Kate. I believe most of the time these days we're doing something theme based, and then it's usually a couple of episodes in each theme. Typically 30 to 45 minutes, and we typically try to find some sort of content piece that's the biggest leverage that we put towards the end. An example of that was we did a webinar towards salespeople, and then we did a live cold calling towards the end. And obviously people wanted to stay for that. So I think it's important how you structure the content as well, in terms of getting people to stay throughout. But I'm also a huge proponent of thought leadership. I think getting the right guests in terms of content is also crucial. They are kind of giving you their sign of approval, so to say, if they're joining a webinar with you. So I think that's key. Yeah.
Oh, and I think it's also super important that in this day and age, no one wants to be sold to. Like, if you're going to give your time, you want to learn something out of it. So it's super important that when you're doing these webinars, that it is thought leadership, that they are getting something out of it at the end. It's not just a 30, 45 hour and a half sales pitch. Good call. So do you have,
add, Tanya, that
oh yes,
going back to what Kate said about the series, here at Ciligo, we started an integration bites series, and we've seen huge success from that. So we have a series registration page. Instead of we have the registration pages for each individual webinar, but if you have a series page, people can register for multiple webinars at once. So you can really double down on all that content, which is really great.
That's good. Yeah, because I think we forget sometimes. We're like, oh yeah, check off all the boxes and
Especially if you
register.
can check it versus filling out the form 3 times. Like, everyone loves to save a little bit of time. And I think the way you structure that series, especially if you get their interest with the first one, they're probably going to be more likely to check those other 2 boxes too.
So important that we don't look at webinars anymore as a one and done, and that we're looking at how we can build on it. What is our strategy throughout of it? So no, that's really cool to yes, they're shorter, but it doesn't mean we're doing less content or trying to cram more into half an hour. We're just making it more like a Netflix series. Now you all know what my toxic trait is, and we will go on to the next question. Is you're talking about subject matter experts. Do you have certain customers or specialists or speakers on that work better, that you think capture more interest? Megan, we start with you on this one?
Yeah, so my perspective probably comes a little bit more from the partner side, but I do a ton of webinars jointly to end users. A lot of the times we'll bring in a partner. Just like tomorrow we have our integration bite series, and we brought in one of our partners, Hairball, to be a speaker. They also are co-promoting the webinar, so we're doubling down on promotion that way. Because if you think about it, when you're promoting through your own channels, you're really just hitting prospects and customers within your database, and they're emailable contacts, or they have to be. But when your partner shares it, they're reaching a whole new base that you may not have reached before. So it's been really great to not only highlight our partners as thought leaders, but also add net new folks to our database and really get people interested in what we both have to say together. It's a better together story for us, which is really nice.
And I'm all about sharing and caring all together. So I think it also, it helps us jump over that barrier of how do we get more eyeballs on this? How do we get more people listening? So I think that's a great tip for everyone out there today. And Kate, who do you normally contact or ask to be hosts of webinars or co-hosts and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I can kind of answer this with, I can go either side of the fence. I mean, I can talk about USC education and all the things that we are doing, but I can also talk about what we are doing as a company, because we are speakers on our platform. Riley, who was on the call, just did, she's my marketing manager, and she's Precious McGee. We love her. She did a webinar a couple of weeks ago on creating engagement in your webinars. Wade does it on credit card processing and teaching the process. I do them on communication, and so I can approach this in like what we are doing as a company, because we use it for our own marketing purposes as well. So we are, carving ourselves out as thought leaders in the space. We are seeking out other people. It is not uncommon for Riley or I to attend a conference, attend sessions, and say, man, that is a mover and a shaker session. Would you be willing to present that subject again on USC education? So we are always looking for people that have new and innovative ideas that want to come and share. And that means being out in the community and listening and engaging and recruiting. So I hope I answered that.
Oh, that's perfect. And I think that shows too, like, this isn't just a one-way discussion either. We have to become, we are subject matter experts in our own right. Maybe not as much in the like in the actual thing we're selling, but from a marketing perspective, we are here for not just for our brand, but for our company brand as well. So I think that idea of partnership and getting as many eyeballs as you can out there works as a two-way street. So keep that in mind, and I will do a shameless plug. If anyone ever wants to be a panelist on the CMA chat, you are always more than welcome to raise your hand and be on our show. So do you have a date or time that is more optimal? Is there a time or a place that you see a higher rate of people who register or attendees? Kate, do you notice anything in particular there? Or is it really about the topic?
So we've kicked around this so much. We've jumped days. Usually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are our peak days. So right now we have webinars every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at the 11 o'clock and the 1 o'clock time slot. So that we have a speaker portal. You sign up for a webinar, we host the webinar, and you present your topic. So the 1 o'clock, I think, from what I'm seeing, is prime, because that takes into account time zones. So we can bring in the people that are, starting their day at 12:30, 12:45, and so for me, it's the 1 o'clock. The 1 o'clock on Thursday is what I see is the best time slot. Also, the 1 o'clock on Thursday gets a little bit more marketing than the other two. So if you do a webinar with USC Education Thursday, 1 o'clock's the sweet spot.
And Megan, what about you? Is it Thursday at 1 o'clock as well, or do you have another timer?
Close, very similar. So we do Tuesdays and Thursdays. We try to stay away from Mondays just because, you're starting your week. You don't get a lot of traction there. Fridays, a lot of people take off. So Tuesdays and Thursdays seem to be the day sweet spot. And I'd also agree with Kate. We do 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern, and that seems to be a really good time frame. I'd also add that I think when you're thinking about your communication strategy when it comes to promotion and emails and things, you kind of want to stick to some sort of a schedule. So you're not, if you're using competing lists and you're segmenting, you're not promoting all these different webinars to someone 4 times a day or week or whatever. You want to really keep your promotion schedule and communication strategy in mind. I'd say for on the partner side, we do monthly tech spotlights around the same time, Tuesdays and Thursdays at that time we mentioned, but for town halls that we do quarterly for our partners, we do those at 8 a.m. Pacific. And the reason we do that is because we're trying to hit a global audience, which can be really tough, especially if you're West Coast like I am. So I'd say that's the only difference there.
Makes sense. Yeah, if we're trying to touch everyone, there's not many times it's just make it unideal for everyone, and then everyone will
hard.
come. Yeah,
Global's really
exactly.
hard.
Global is hard. Oh, there's a question that came into the chat. Do you always do live webinars, or would you do recorded ones, perhaps with a live Q&A, and run it at multiple times in a day for the time zones? So is that something that any of you do?
Oh yeah, I mentioned our series. We do the integration bites. So we ended up doing 3 of those within the first quarter, and then we repurposed those the next 2 quarters. We added some new content to some of them, but we produced them semi-live. So we used that main piece of content, but then added in the speaker at the end for a live Q&A, and that's worked really well. And when we promote those repurposed webinars, we'll basically segment the list. So we won't promote it to anyone that has attended an integration bites. We will promote it to someone that registered but did not attend, but it's a really good way to kind of catch those people that maybe missed it the first round. And you're really using that content again, not just a one and done, to your earlier point.
Yeah, no, we are all about repurposing the Channel Marketing Academy. So definitely won't give away the whole scoop. We'll talk about that in a little more detail later. So let's move on to promotions. So now we know what day, what time, who to target. So how, where, how long before each event do you start promoting a webinar? Adam, what about you? How long before do you start?
It depends a little bit, but ideally, if I can get a month to promote a webinar, that's awesome. Mostly because usually we have a couple of 1, 2, 3 people, thought leaders that are in these webinars, and to have them actually post about it a couple of times before the actual webinar has been really successful for us. And actually that we start the promotion and then we go kind of heavier towards the end. We might start the promotion a bit lighter in the beginning, and then towards the end, when people are, obviously it's nearing the date of the webinar, we increase it a little bit. And usually we also try to have some sort of topic related to a number of some sort, a report of some sort that we have probably done together, or something that we can work around, which is something that has worked really well. But a month or so, I think, is ideal. Usually I don't get that, but ideally.
Oh, we're all about the ideal situation here. We all know in marketing what really happens after you say, ideally, I would like this, and then what you really get afterwards. But I think that's a good benchmark for everyone. If you're always doing 2 weeks, well, maybe try one that's a little longer. If you're always doing 3 months, maybe shorten it a little bit, because that's too far out for some people. So I think that's a good benchmark. What about you, Kate? How long in advance do you guys promote your events?
So I kind of have 2 answers for this, again, from that lens of, running a company that this is what we do, but also internally how we use our own webinars. We actively start marketing all of our webinars 2 weeks before in a bi-weekly bulletin. So we have a bulletin that goes out every Monday and every Wednesday. You can register right from the bulletin. It has every event for the next 2 weeks right there. It's on our website as soon as the event is booked. So if you were to come on and book a webinar in June, it's going to sit on the website until June. It does get scrolling traffic. So if you have a title that is going to grab somebody, you'll start seeing registrations on your event. I just booked an event in February and it already has registrations on it. So living on the website is marketing, but we very actively market them 2 weeks before in our bulletins. We post all events on our LinkedIn showcase page. And the webinar has a session summary, usually by the speaker. And so that's video. As we know, video is king. So we post a session summary on our LinkedIn as well. Now, here's an interesting way to use a webinar internally. What we do, if we know we have a speaking engagement coming up at a conference, for example, we will, as a team, book a webinar 2 weeks later. And it is in an effort to continue the conversation with people that come to our sessions. So we may say, hey, I'm going to be talking about this more in depth coming up in a couple of weeks. If you want to continue the conversation with me, join me, UST Education, and learn a little bit more. But that helps us continue the engagement so the engagement doesn't end at the top of the hour when our session does at a conference. So that's a fun, interesting way that you can continue that engagement with your audience and bring in more people.
Oh, that's good, especially now that we're in event season. Everyone take this hot tip, and because we're always wondering, what do we do next afterwards? Like, things getting lost in an email, but if someone enjoyed your session, people might be more interested in coming to learn more right away. And while you have that captive audience is great. And you mentioned that the title and having a little synopsis is there. Is there anything else that you've noticed that is effective in getting to reeling people in to sign up for webinars?
I can give a different idea. I'm trying to stay focused in my questions.
No.
I get very excited.
I squirrel, you can squirrel too. You're good.
So we also send out a follow-up email after every webinar as a company, as UST Education sends out a follow-up email. All of our webinars are recorded and they live on our media library forever. We are issuing credits. So the answer to that question for us, all of our webinars are live because we're issuing credits for those. But one thing that is very effective, if you have a series, whether on your own platform, if you're on another platform presenting webinars, in your follow-up, include a link to your other parts of your series. And we'll do that in our follow-up. You know, Dan Stevens is a fantastic speaker that speaks on our platform. Anything else that he has coming up, I will include it on the follow-up email. Just as another piece of marketing to drive more registrations. If somebody loved him and connected with him, they can quickly see where else to find him.
That's good. It get them while they're hot. I think that is a great tip for everyone. And what about you, Megan? What are some of the most effective ways that you have seen to promote future webinars?
Yeah, so we use UTMs to track any way a registration comes in, which is really helpful in kind of doubling down on what's most successful for us. And I pulled some data this morning off of our platform Goldcast, which is what we use for webinars. And if anyone is interested in Goldcast, I'm obsessed. So please reach out to me. I'd love to talk about it. We recently switched over this year and it's such a great tool. But anyway, we use a couple different ways to promote. So our number one is email promotion via HubSpot. That's our email automation platform. So email marketing is totally not dead, at least for us. So that's the number one way we get registrations, is hitting up our prospect and customer database. The other is we actually promote within our tool itself. So Celigo is an iPaaS, so an integration platform as a service. So if a customer goes in to use Celigo, the very top banner is usually promoting, I'd say most likely our quarterly platform product updates, but we will highlight some really big thought leadership that we do wear. So we see a lot of registrations from that. And then I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of webinars with partners. So we see a lot of net new, especially coming in from partner promotions, and we give them their own UTM. We provide them a messaging template, social cards, and email banners that they can use that are co-branded. And then the fourth would probably be social. So LinkedIn is primarily what we use. We'll post on our Ciligo company page, and then we'll also have our speakers promote organically, which helps too. And this is kind of a segue from webinars, but for anyone that's familiar with some of the social platforms, we used a tool called LetterDrop this year. So if your company uses LetterDrop, your employees can essentially opt in to attach their personal LinkedIn to it. So it will automatically like anything that Ciligo posts. So that's really boosted a lot of our engagement, because we're seeing a lot of people just automatically like it, which I was going in and liking everything anyway, but it's really nice to not have to think about it. So that's just another tidbit that we've learned this year.
We love the sharing of our favorite tools. So please keep them coming. If anyone else you have a favorite tool, please include them, because I think all of us we're always looking for new different tools that we can use to automate, because yeah, who has the time to go in and like everything, even though we know that's what we got to do. But if we can have someone do it for us, who's the crazy one or who's the smart one in the room? So that's awesome. And I think that also shows us that, you know, it's not like promoting a webinar comes from a lot of different tactics, and you have to look at it from a holistic view and not just looking at the webinar itself, but how does it fit into your overall strategy? Because you're talking about social, you're talking about email, you're talking about all of these different aspects and how you lump them all together. So like when we started at the top of the hour, webinars are not dead. It's just how you promote them and how you use them makes all the difference. So keeping that holistic view is very important. And please put your tools, your favorite tools in the chat, because I know every chat, everyone wants to know what are people using and if they like it or not. So yeah, please keep going with that. And finally, a bit of a controversial topic, and I think this has come and gone with the years, but do you incentivize people to attend? Megan, how do you feel about that? And people in the chat, by all means, I know this is going to be a hot topic, so let us know how you feel.
We love a spicy question.
We need to add in a pepper once in a while, you know.
Absolutely. We don't incentivize end users for any of our webinars. They're primarily thought leadership, so that's kind of the value there. I certainly have in the past. Currently, for any like partner trainings that we do, just with one partner, we'll offer like a lunch and learn gift card, like Uber Eats or something. I think that works when it's really targeted. A good example of something I've done in a past life is I used to work for a tax compliance company. We used to offer CPE credits, so continuing professional education credits for any of like our thought leadership webinars. CPE is a requirement for CPAs, and a lot of the audience that we were reaching were CFOs and finance folks, so it was a great value to offer that. With that, there's some requirements for CPE. So I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but just a couple things. The webinars obviously have to be educational. They have to be at least an hour, which totally goes against what Kate and I were saying earlier about 30-minute webinars. But for something that's specific like that, I think an hour has to work. Has to be live. You have to do some sort of check-in. So Tanya, to your earlier Netflix reference, there's kind of that, hey, are you still watching? Or they have to answer a poll or something. But I would say that offering CPE credit to that audience worked really well. It boosted our registration, and our attendance record just like skyrocketed, just because obviously they're looking for those CPEs. That's a good example. Just a bad example of something that happened in the past with me. We did a webinar with a user group, and we offered lunch gift cards. I think it was Uber Eats gift cards, like $25 to anyone that attended live. The user group promoted on social, which was great, and we saw tons of registrations. Like I think it was like 175. So at first I was really excited, and then we looked at the list, and because we promoted on social and it was very open to any and all, we got a lot of personal emails. We got a lot of bots and fake emails. So we did have to provide lunch gift cards, but they weren't really the audience that we were hoping to get. You can kind of combat this by putting on your form business email required. So that's something we ended up doing later. But that was a learning for me, just I think volume isn't everything. You got to really look at the list and make sure you're connecting with the right audience.
Yeah, no, I think we have all had a similar experience or learned from that. I call them adult trick-or-treaters, who I guess it's well fitting at this time of year. But yeah, people who are just in it for the free lunch or the Chotsky or whatever. Definitely have to do something to combat that. Kate, is there anything you want to add, or do we keep rolling? Do you do anything
I
different?
would copy paste Megan's answer. It was very good. We also do lunch and learns for our partners for new, I call it cherries on top with our solution, with our payment solution. So we'll do lunch and learns, which is totally different from UST education, right? That's not educational. That is talking about development so that, you know, a sales team can speak to it. And those we do a true lunch and learn. We send a gift certificate to Uber Eats or wherever they want to use it. If they want to, you know, they want to do Amazon, they can. We send that to them for otherwise everything that we do is thought leadership. So it all is eligible for credit. So we may, you know, that is definitely incentive enough to get people to come to our webinars. But copy paste everything Megan said.
Yeah. Oh no, that's good. And now we know the juice is worth the squeeze when it comes to those CPE credits. Yes, it's maybe more work up front, but you know, you'll get the right people in the room after that to listen. One other question that came in terms of topics, do you reuse certain topics regularly, or is it a one and done? Do either of you have comments, questions, emotional outbursts on this one?
For us, everyone's favorite answer, it depends, right? So since we're kind of a more technical space, a lot of what we're seeing in terms of topics that work really well, anything AI related. I think AI is the new digital transformation buzzword, right? So anything AI, I think you can use it in a lot of different ways as long as it's tangible. I think it's really important not to just use it as a buzzword, but use content that makes sense for you, that you have expertise in, and that the audience can actually get something out of it. The other is kind of a niche for Celigo, but data warehouse is a big popular topic for us. I think it's a very new frontier for a lot of people. So I think that's been a popular topic. So what we'll do is, you think Goldcast was paying me to say this, but within our Goldcast platform, we're able to do a lot of reporting around topics and live attendance versus on demand versus registration. We're kind of able to see what topics work best for us. So that's been really great. Like I'm currently in the process of reevaluating our tech spotlight for partners next year, and I'm honing in on the topics that made the most sense and that were the most popular. Where did we get a lot of engagement on those live webinars? So it's really nice to like take a look at your reporting and see what topics did work. Because I think it's so easy to do a webinar and then just move on to the next and not do some kind of feedback loop with your internal team, or even just taking a look at reporting if you're a one-man show. But it's really important to see like what's actually working and then using that data to make decisions for future webinars.
And if this is not the first time you're here, you will have heard me say marketing is a science and an art, and data is so important in our industry because yes, we can go off of like our spidey sense and how we feel about things, but it's really the data afterwards and having the proper tools in place to help you with that. And we are happy, like we know there's no sponsorship other than LLTV for this one, so please feel free to add in your tools that way. I think that's my segue into our commercial break. So thank you, LLTV. They are a digital creative agency that focuses on broadcasting, media production, brand and video content. They are passionate about taking complex ideas and making them understandable and digestible, and then finally shareable. I think for us in the ERP and channel marketing space, that is pretty much what we have to do on the regular. So please check them out, learn if they can help you, and help you take your video marketing to the next level, because we heard that, you know, having those little snippets of video help promote your webinars. So if you don't have the bandwidth, check out someone who does. And thank you for keeping the lights on here, because we can keep not charging people for these sessions thanks to sponsors like LLTV. For now, back to a regular scheduled program. We will move on to repurposing, because we were talking about one and done. We're talking about the time and energy that goes into this. What do you do to repurpose the content afterwards? What kind of content do you build from these webinars? Adam, you're back. I was a little worried there for a second, but glad to see you back.
Here.
What do you guys do to repurpose your content after a webinar?
No, but honestly, I would say like repurposing is the biggest reason why I run webinars in the first place. We are really trying to create some sort of content loop with everything we do. So it typically ends up in a couple of different snippets that goes out on social, on our own social, of course, but also on the speaker social. It will also be summarized in some sort of a newsletter. So everything just goes around like that, which also makes it incredibly easy to run our company social, because it should be, you know, a couple of these snippets every week. It should be the newsletter with summarizing these findings throughout the webinar. So yeah, it's really the bread and butter of our webinar strategy for sure. Yeah.
That's good. And I think that also helps ease when you ask for new webinars, you're like, oh, it's not this one and done thing that we're never going to use again. They will see this content that kind of filters in through everything. So it makes them that preparation bit to getting the webinar ready less of a bitter pill to swallow, because you're like, look, we're using it in all of these different ways. So it's not a one and done, or we're going to ask you again in 2 weeks to do another one on the same topic, because we have all this additional content that we can build out of it. Megan, how are you repurposing your webinar content?
Yeah, we usually have the transcription created into written content that we'll repurpose. Something new that we've done this year within our platform is after every webinar, the platform automatically creates little mini clips for us that have subtitles. So I end up using those for social, for retargeting. I also use it in our follow-up email to anyone that registered but missed the live webinar, to kind of entice them to watch it on demand. I'll also include like 2 to 3 bullets on like key points that really help. But anything like that, I think can help extend the life of your webinar. 'Cause, you know, as we mentioned earlier, I think it's really easy to move on to the next, especially if you're doing 200 webinars, which I can't even imagine, Kate, you must be so busy. But going back to
stellar team. It's my team. They're amazing.
That does help. That does
Yeah.
help. We also will repurpose the content. We'll do like blogs and articles from the transcribed content. We'll work with our partners if we have a partner speaker, and we'll create something new from that. We'll work together and co-brand it, and then they also share on their blog or with their audience somehow. So it's nice to work with partners, kind of double down on those opportunities.
Oh, no, that's great. Yeah, I think as many ways as we can repurpose, I think that's the name of the game in marketing in 2024, is how can we take that same piece of content and snip it in a different way? And by having different little short videos out of it too, you're able to have different content, even though if you're promoting the same thing. So if someone is scrolling, it might not be the first one, it'll be the second one that they're interested in, but it doesn't look like you're just showing the same thing over and over and over again. Very cool. And then of these additional content items that you created, which seem to be the most effective for views and clicks? Adam?
No, but I think the the video snippets are, they are crazy. I think when they launched this reel thing on LinkedIn, right? The views of those have gone up like incredibly. It's also artificial views in some sense maybe, but I think video snippets have the potential to live on for a long time compared to text or image things. So I think 90% of everything we do are some sort of video in relation to it, and then you can put different kinds of productions into it. Sometimes it's just a snippet with subtitles, right? But sometimes it's also animations and things like that. So that has really been key for sure.
Oh no, that's good. Just to zhuzh it up a little bit with
Exactly.
animation or something a little different to catch someone's eye. You already have the video, so especially nowadays, there are tools that make it super easy just to add in that little text bubble over it or the transcription underneath. If you're like me, who's watching them late at night while your partner is sleeping and you don't want to have the volume on, you're doing a lot more video reading. So like having that, little text at the bottom is key. What about you, Kate? Anything that we haven't mentioned that you think we should add to the list?
Sure. I actually have a list. I'll drop it into chat. These are all the different ways that we repurpose a webinar. I'm also going to put into chat Opus Pro. This is an AI tool that we use to create short form. So you can select how long you want that clip to be, and it'll kick you back clips. Small team, we got to work smarter, not harder. So that's a really great tool that we use. But I would say the thing that's most effective for us is the short form. Creating a 30-second snippet from a webinar that we can reuse. I just booked a webinar for Wade Tetsuka, my boss, to do a webinar because I need the short clips for marketing. So he's going to present on USD Ed because I need the recording. But I would say the most compelling would be that short form video, but also you can convert that webinar into an infographic, into a blog, into that you can give your participant so they have a tangible walk away, something they can hold to walk away, a checklist. Like I'm about to drop into chat, different ways you can repurpose a webinar. That would be like a thing that a checklist that you can take from this session to put into your strategy. I think that's the most important thing with repurposing, is letting that content live on and take on new legs. Smarter, not harder.
Amen
I love
to
a good
that. And
checklist.
everyone loves a checklist, and I think that's a good way too to validate a little bit. What did I learn? How can I easily share that with other people? I hope everyone is screenshotting the list that just went into the chat now. I think that is great for everyone to think of these different ways. And a podcast, I heard last week someone taking blogs and converting them into podcasts now. So the way we consume information is totally different. And not everyone consumes it the same way, but the content is there and ready for us. So please, everyone, snip away. And Megan, someone is asking for the name of the tool. Maybe there'll be a sponsor. Goldcast, was that it?
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
mentioned too. So Goldcast is the webinar platform we use, and then I think I mentioned Letter Drop, which is that social automation tool. Yeah, it's awesome. Very user friendly too, which is great.
Riley, we're doing that.
So everyone's frantically taking notes. Or my next shameless plug, all the sessions are recorded and up on our website after. So if you did not have a pen in handy because you're listening to this on the move or in your car, or who has a pen in 2024, you can listen to it afterwards. Not a problem. And then we are going to close up with, what type of trends do we see? What do you see moving forward in the webinar world? Megan, how about you kick us off here? What do you see the
Sure.
next little bit like in this?
I think Kate covered a lot of this, so it might be word vomit here, but I think one, less is more. We've started doing fewer, more targeted webinars. So not trying to do it all, but really focusing on our area of expertise, using the data to make data-driven decisions for future webinars, and also just optimization. I remember right after COVID, when we couldn't have live events and webinars were then the main source for a lot of marketers, and it was really hard to cut through the noise. So now that we're kind of past that initial COVID stage, it's really more about using the created content in different channels and driving webinar programs with partners for us, which works really well. And then also list optimization. So right now I'm currently working on like a re-engagement program for a lot of our partners, because I'm noticing as I'm digging into the data for our tech spotlights, it's a lot of the same partners and contacts. But some partners have opted out. Maybe they got too many marketing emails from us, or maybe they just haven't engaged with us in any marketing material at all. Maybe they just implement Celigo, right? So I'm working on a re-engagement where partners can re-opt in. So they're receiving, our monthly webinar newsletter that we do, our partner tech spotlights, and our quarterly town halls. So trying to reach people that we haven't before. So just, I guess, key takeaway for me is just optimize what you have and focus on what your expertise is.
No, I think that that's a great tip, because with, AI and everything that we've just been working hard at, like, oh, we can do this faster and more efficiently, without really taking the time after to see, just because is sometimes less is more. And I think that's a good tip for going into as we build out our marketing plans, is let's not reinvent the wheel every time. Our time is precious, and take what we can and optimize with data. And like, it's easy to go back and prove to others, saying like, no, this works, or we need more on this topic. So definitely everyone take the time to review your stats, because marketing is a science, not just an art. And what about you, Kate? What trends do you see in the webinar world coming up?
So we've already talked about using a series. I think that is a big trend. You can build your audience. The content builds, it's stackable, right? Creating an interactive and engaging experience for your community. I see a lot of importance in that, using the chat, using gamification. There's lots of different things that you can use in your webinar to make it an experience that everybody has together. So I think that is a big trend that we're seeing. I have kind of several coming to top of mind. I think one of the most important things is to focus on accessibility. Providing a closed caption, a transcript from the webinar that can be sent to someone that may have a disability in some way, that may need that. We have a participant that comes to our webinar that wants all the closed captions on. She also wants the transcript after the webinar, because she watches it again to make sure that she's absorbed all the information. So that's a special case. We send that to her. It's a customized process we have for her in our workflow. So using different language translations, other accessibility features, just to be sure that our webinars are inclusive for all of our participants. I think that's a big one.
Great. And we have the tools now that are able to offer these possibilities and be more inclusive. So let's tick them on and think about it, because the more people that it reaches, and those drop-offs before, they may be just because they're not audio, they're visual people and stuff. So great call out there. And Adam, I'm gonna finish off with you. What trends do you see in the upcoming year?
No, but I think it's getting harder and harder to get people to actually attend webinars. So I think we need to think more about the experience of people not attending webinars. I would even like to ask people when they sign up. I've seen some people do that, if they are going to attend or not, because then you can kind of customize the journey. But I think it doesn't really say if they're not attending, they might be, they might be really interested in the subject anyway. So it's more about how can we tailor that experience anyways. You might send them some related content piece in the meantime, and then the day after they will get the recording or something like that. I really think, yeah, it's getting harder and harder to get the attention of people to actually take their time to sit through a webinar. But they will probably be willing to consume the information in their own time.
That's a
Love
great
that.
Yes. Mhm.
Guilty. So Kate, sorry.
I'm good.
No. Yeah, no, and I think that comes back to what we were saying earlier too about having this full view of a webinar, and it's not just the act of the webinar itself, it's everything else that comes into it before and after. So building that experience that you're going to have a 50% off drop rate from the get-go, I think that is helping you have more success up front. And you might not, you know that it's going to happen. We've all lived in it. It's not because it's a bad topic. It's just life happens, or we've gotten so used to, like they're going to send me the recording afterwards. So having that in mind from the jump, I think, is a great call out. And I'm excited to see all of these creative minds in the room today on what we're going to do to make that experience happen in the upcoming year. So we have a couple more minutes. If anyone has some last minute burning questions that you were too shy to say before or didn't think fit, by all means, you can put them in the chat now. If not, I'm gonna say thank you. Please come to our November chat. I'm terrible. I didn't actually write down the date for this one. 1 second, I'm going to talk really slowly as I pull it up. So it is on Tuesday, November 19th. And this is one where I'm sure we've all had to balance as marketers in one way, shape, or form, is keeping everyone happy when you market multiple vendors. So that is always something that is tricky, but a part of our reality on the regular. So please, sign up. We'd love to hear from you and join our community. And that long-winded shameless plug, we got another question that came in from John saying, what type of audience growth do you see by turning your webinars into a series? Ooh. Do we have any approximate answers, or just in general you see
I'm happy to answer that. Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So I'm going to speak to that from a personal, this has been my personal experience. I have a series on UST education called The Power of Connection. And I talk about all kinds of different things about communication, everything from networking to growing professionally and leadership. The one coming up in a couple of weeks is how to have a hard conversation, because we have to have them. We don't need to avoid them. So how can we put a formula on that and make it an effective way to have a conversation? So I have seen the registration on those emails double every single time. So it is a series that is marketed. After one, I market the next one and then the next one, and I see immediate RSVPs on those webinars. And I think the first one I had maybe 75, and the one coming up in a couple of weeks, I'm thinking is about 150, 160 is where it's sitting right now. So it's doubling every time. And I have another one in February. So definitely. And I take just a couple of minutes to kind of recap what the first one was on. John Rivers, many of you know John, he's also done several series with us. I think Anya's done something similar, what to do before, during, and after a conference in preparation. We've also done a series similar to that, and we just built on it. And we just saw it grow. It's very exciting. That's awesome. So everyone, let's take that as our inspiration as we close up the session today. How do you build on what you already have? So less is more, looking at the full circle and looking at that whole experience, knowing that some people might not be ready now to listen to it, but
how do you serve up the content for them that they'll consume it in another way now that you have it? So repurposing is key. I want to give a big thank you to Kate, Megan, and Adam for enlightening us today and hopefully inspiring to get back on the webinar bandwagon. If you have poo-pooed it in the past over the last little bit, it is working. I think the proof is in the data. So thanks everyone. Have a good week and happy Halloween to all those who celebrate. So thanks. Bye now.
Thank you.